to hear this.
You know, we've got opportunities to play through Maisha and Didi in the same way that we do, you know, AB, especially in the quarter court. So we need to take advantage of that. And
What'd you say?
you know, we've got opportunities to play through Maisha and Didi in the same way that we do.
Wait, what?
You know, we've got opportunities to play through Maisha and Didi in the same way that we do, you know, AB, especially in the quarter court. So we need to.
You know, we've got opportunities to play through Maisha and Didi the same way we played through AB in the half court. That's what Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White told reporters when discussing the offense without Aaliyah Boston. But if you've actually watched the last stretch of games, that explanation doesn't line up with reality at all. Because over the last 50 minutes on the floor, Caitlin Clark has clearly taken control of the offense, pushing the tempo, creating plays on instinct, and in many ways abandoning the structured approach the Fever originally relied on. And honestly, the offense has looked more alive because of it. So the real question becomes, why is Stephanie White still talking like the system hasn't changed when everyone watching can see that Caitlin Clark is already running the show?
She's in front of a camera. Every time she gets behind a microphone, she always manages to just step in it. Step in a pile of hot, steamy dung. Every time. I can't remember the last time Stephanie White gave an interview that just wasn't vomit of the mouth. That just wasn't word salad galore. That just wasn't everything as fans we don't want to hear.
This isn't the first time Stephanie White has faced criticism for the way she handles these press conferences. Fans have started noticing a pattern, long explanations that seem to dance around what's actually happening on the court. In interview after interview, there's this constant hesitation to fully acknowledge Caitlin Clark's impact without immediately shifting the focus back to the system, the scheme, or the style of offense White brought over from Connecticut. But now that Aaliyah Boston is out, the difference has become impossible to ignore. Clark has been given more control, more freedom to improvise, and the offense suddenly looks faster, more aggressive, and far more natural. The contrast between the structured approach White keeps describing and what fans are actually watching unfold on the floor is becoming hard to overlook.
The ability to actually change is why Alyssa Thomas is coming out and saying this.
We do that. I mean, like you said, we played, 2 years? Everything pretty much the same. So,
Damn.
Offense, we know everything they're about to do.
Damn, Stephanie White's inability to change, inability to adapt. Had Alyssa Thomas last year saying, yeah, we know everything they're about to do. Everything that they're about to run, we know it. Which is why it's probably even more important that you say, Caitlin Clark, do your thing. Because it's more unpredictable than your predictable, stagnant-ass, weak-ass, sorry-ass offense.
This is exactly why critics believe Stephanie White's system has become too predictable. Even Alyssa Thomas hinted at it last season when she basically admitted opposing teams already knew what was coming before the play even developed. That's a serious problem in professional basketball. If defenses can anticipate every action, your offense becomes easy to shut down. And that's why many fans are now arguing that the Fever should simply let Caitlin Clark take over and play freely, because her creativity and unpredictability bring an entirely different energy than the structured half-court sets White keeps relying on. Now look closely at what White actually said. She claimed the Fever can play through Myisha Hines-Allen and Duwana Bonner in the half-court the same way they play through Aaliyah Boston. But that statement reveals the core issue people have been criticizing all season. When White talks about playing through Boston, she's referring to an offense built around the post as the central hub, slowing the game down, feeding the interior, and often pushing Clark off the ball into more of a spot-up role. Fans have seen possessions where Boston initiates actions, Clark waits on the perimeter, and the offense becomes stagnant with limited movement or pace. But what's happened over the last couple of games has looked completely different. With Clark controlling the offense, the Fever have pushed the tempo, attacked in transition, and relied heavily on pick-and-roll action with the ball constantly in her hands. That style creates improvisation, movement, and pressure on the defense. It's not just a minor adjustment, it's an entirely different philosophy from the slower, more structured system White has been trying to implement.
Crazy how much better Caitlin Clark looks without the hub in there. Ain't that wild to y'all? Isn't it crazy how much better and more comfortable and more in control Caitlin Clark looks when she's doing her own thing and she doesn't have to worry about feeding the hub? Maybe a story for another day.
But when you watch Caitlin Clark outside of that post-centered system, The difference is obvious. She looks freer, more confident, and fully in command of the offense. Instead of standing around waiting for the ball to rotate back after an entry pass to the post, she's attacking defenses in real time, reading coverages instantly, and playing with a pace and creativity that made her a superstar at Iowa. The flow looks natural when the ball stays in her hands. That's why so many fans are frustrated with Stephanie White's comments. Rather than acknowledging how much more dynamic the offense has looked with Clark leading it directly, White continues emphasizing players like Dantas and Hines-Allen, even though their roles in these recent games have largely been as screeners, floor spacers, and finishers, not true offensive focal points. To critics, it feels like White is still trying to frame everything through her preferred system instead of recognizing what's actually working on the court.
Huge advantage. I mean, like you said, we played, 2 years? Everything's pretty much the same. So
Damn.
Defense, offense, we know everything they're about to do.
Damn, Stephanie White's inability to change, inability to adapt. Had Alyssa Thomas last year saying, yeah, we know everything they're about to do. Everything that they're about to run, we know it. Which is why it's probably even more important that you say, Caitlin Clark, do your thing. Because it's more unpredictable than your predictable.
What makes this even more frustrating for Fever fans is that criticism of Stephanie White's offensive system isn't new. Former Connecticut Sun players, including Alyssa Thomas, have openly hinted that White's schemes became easy to predict because opponents already knew what actions and sets were coming. And when an offense becomes that predictable, defenses can prepare for everything before it even happens. That's why unpredictability matters so much, especially in today's game. You need someone who can break structure, create chaos for defenses, and generate opportunities that aren't drawn up step by step on a clipboard. That's exactly what Caitlin Clark brings when she's given the freedom to improvise and play instinctively. Her creativity changes the tempo of the game and forces defenses to react instead of anticipate. But from the perspective of many fans, it feels like White still prioritizes maintaining her offensive structure over fully unleashing the unique playmaking ability Clark offers. And the more success Clark has when the offense speeds up and becomes less rigid, the louder that debate is going to get.
Wait, what the fuck is your definition of playing through? Is your definition of playing through? Because it seems to change depending on who we're actually talking about. So I think you just continue to change definitions and what words mean. You can't really change what words mean. You're not an authority on that. I know it hurts you because you want to be in control all the time, and when you're not in control, you start grabbing players and yanking players and setting your assistants on players. Yeah, we see you, Stephanie. We see you. But when you say play through AB, you literally are talking about her being the hub. Like, you're talking about her being the hub, making decisions with the basketball, ignore
any other player. These aren't casual observers. These are people who watch every game, who've tracked the offensive patterns, who've seen the difference when Clark is empowered versus when she's relegated to a system player, and they're not buying what Stephanie White is selling. The reaction from fans and analysts was immediate and intense. Social media exploded after that press conference. One fan summed it up perfectly. Her obsession with not playing through Caitlin is insane. Another wrote, they're not even hiding it anymore. They keep trying to make CC look like just another player. These aren't random viewers. They're fans who watch every game, follow the offensive patterns, and clearly notice the difference between Caitlin Clark running freely and Caitlin Clark being forced into a rigid system. And right now, a lot of them simply aren't buying what Stephanie White is saying.
Can't even escape it. Especially incredible when she's doing all this with a coach who seems like she's trying to sabotage her and change how she plays. The look of disdain from Caitlin's head coach when she made that long three-pointer yesterday was literally disgusting. Damn, we were supposed to be on a 4-0 run right now. We lost 2 winnable games, no thanks to your pathetic roster construction. Get her a center, Amber, and stop drafting guards. Yet I believe your coach wants her to play like a boring old motion offense and not let her run the style she thrives in. This front office is getting cooked at every turn. And I'm here for it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video, hype the video, and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much.
So here's where things stand right now. Caitlin Clark is in the middle of an incredible stretch, stacking multiple 20-point, 10-assist performances while playing with a level of freedom and confidence that fans feel has been missing for most of the season. And both the numbers and the eye test point to the same conclusion. The offense looks faster, smoother, and far more natural when Clark is fully controlling the game. The ball moves better, the pace increases, and the team looks more dangerous in transition and pick-and-roll situations instead of slowing everything down into half-court sets. But despite all of that, many fans feel Stephanie White still refuses to fully acknowledge what's happening. Instead of centering the conversation around Clark's impact, she continues talking about structure, systems, and playing through role players in the half court. And whether intentional or not, that sends a message. When your franchise player is carrying the offense and elevating everyone around her, but the public messaging barely reflects it, people start questioning the disconnect. That's why the frustration keeps growing. Fans believe Clark has clearly shown what this offense can become when she's allowed to play instinctively, pushing tempo, creating in space, and making live reads instead of operating inside a rigid structure. And now the debate surrounding Stephanie White has become unavoidable. Does she adapt her philosophy to maximize a generational talent? Or does she continue forcing a style that many believe limits what Clark does best? Because at the core of all this is a simple reality. Caitlin Clark is not just another player you plug into an existing system. She's the kind of talent you build around completely. Players with her level of vision, shot creation, and offensive gravity are rare, and organizations usually reshape everything to maximize those strengths. Right now, though, a large portion of the fan base feels like Indiana is asking Clark to adjust to the system instead of adjusting the system to her. And that's why the pressure on the coaching staff and front office keeps increasing. Fans are watching the games and seeing a noticeable difference when Clark has more freedom. They're seeing the pace, the energy, and the offensive flow improve. The question now is whether the organization sees it too, and whether they're willing to make adjustments if this pattern continues. At this point, the conversation has moved beyond one press conference or one controversial quote. It's become a bigger debate about the future direction of the franchise. Can Stephanie White adapt and evolve the offense around her superstar point guard? Or has the disconnect between the coaching philosophy and the roster become too big to ignore? Because one thing feels clear to a lot of Fever fans: when you have a talent like Caitlin Clark, you don't force her into a system that limits her creativity. You build the entire system around what makes her special and let her take over games. So what do you think? Can Stephanie White adjust and make this work long term? Or does Indiana eventually need a new direction? And if things don't change, how long should the Fever front office wait before making a major decision?